Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm, coming to you from Woodhenge on the 26th of December 2019, the day after Christmas, and this is behind me what I call Woodhenge, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. I'm here to tell you though about magnetic pole excursions and magnetic pole reversals and what that might mean for you and me to survive, thrive instead of a hive in that kind of scenario. And apparently we are in at least a magnetic excursion scenario. So Greg Allison, what are you talking about magnetic pole reversal? A magnetic pole reversal is not the earth flipping, it's not the geographic poles of the earth changing. A magnetic pole reversal would be the magnetic poles flipping. What's north becomes south, what's south becomes north, and magnetic poles. And incidentally, I think actually right now, the magnetic south pole is near the Earth's geographic magnetic north pole, and vice versa. So, but that is not the important thing. What is important to know is what happens when these poles move and how that can affect us. And a magnetic pole excursion is a different phenomenon. That's where they look like they're about to flip and maybe getting close to it, but actually don't do it. It's where the poles leave their present locations and move about significantly. It seems that they often go near the equator and snap back, or other things happen. But they return to the original position after some excursion of the poles traveling around, the magnetic poles that is. So a magnetic pole reversal is when they give a full flip. Magnetic pole reversals happen, it seems, on an average of over 300,000 years, so they're not incredibly likely. The last one was about 780,000 years ago, so you might say we're overdue, but that doesn't mean we're about to get one. It's hard to say. However, magnetic pole excursions seem to happen on a frequency of something like 12,500 years, which is coincident practically to the last Younger Dryas period, which the Ice Age was ending and then went through a real rough period, and a lot of people apparently died off, and a lot of other animals. So they tell us on some, from some sources, such as PBS has a program on YouTube where they're saying, oh, this is not an extinction level event, not to worry. Well, there's other evidence now that seems to indicate there are a lot of species that get extincted in these magnetic pole excursions, and new species arrive. My friend Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Pole Reversal News, will talk about that stuff, and you can see that in great detail on his channel in terms of what might go and may not go in terms of species. But look at it from the practical standpoint. The magnetic field is our shield. It shields us from cosmic radiation, solar radiation, from what's going on out there in the sun, from space. It is Earth's shield. When the shields are down, you're far more susceptible. And whether something's an extinction level event or not, doesn't mean it would not take out a good portion of any species. And our civilization today is a very fragile civilization that requires a lot of things to be working just right. And if you disrupt that, we're in trouble. Modern monoculture agriculture could be extremely at risk to these kind of events. I've done videos on risk to our modern agricultural system, asking, can modern monoculture agriculture survive? Can it be sustained? And there's a lot of challenges to that. A lot of people find that hard to believe. I also teach you that you can thrive, survive, and stay out of the hide. You can produce most of the food you need on a tenth of an acre. And I've discussed that in videos, and I even interviewed family in Los Angeles, California, and Pasadena area who do just that. So pay attention to my videos. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed to my channel. Click the update notification bell and click the links below to support my channel. If you want to survive, you need to have seeds to plant, so you can have your own seeds that you can replant, not the hybrid seeds you get from the stores. You need to go to True Leaf Market for that. For survival supplies, check out My Patriot Supply. If you want to make your own fresh garden compost from your waste kitchen products, from yard clippings, greengregs.com. I sell worms. I sell them year-round, ship them all over the country, except not to Hawaii. Hawaii has got an exception for red worms. All that said, Greg, why are you standing in front of Woodhenge? What did I mention about radiation? I said that if the poles move around, the magnetic poles I'm talking about, and excursion, what can happen is the magnetic field strength can drop down to 15 to 10% of where it is today. I'm not talking about a pole flip, I'm talking about a pole excursion. And wherever those poles are, you could have much lower magnetic field protection at that point. It might be a death zone. in terms of UV radiation, cosmic radiation, solar flare radiation, all the stuff you're not protected from. Right now it's in the polar regions. There's not a lot of plants growing in the polar regions, so it's not something that we appreciably notice. Most of the life there is under the ice or the ocean. It wouldn't be the case if it's flowing over our crop regions. It could be devastating to our crops. That's why I'm saying it could devastate our agricultural system. Now, Greg, what do we need for radiation protection? Well, typically from most radiation, like solar radiation, 2 foot of dirt would suffice quite nice to stop almost all your radioactive particles. However, 2 foot of dirt or some inches of concrete, unfortunately, because cosmic rays come in with such energetic impact, they are nuclei of atoms sped up to practically relativistic light speed. So when they hit, they're like a super powerful bullet. They cascade deep into an object, and when they hit inside that object, they're hitting other atoms, making other particles cascade out other radioactive particles. So what was a rifle bullet coming into material suddenly becomes a shotgun blast within that material. To stop the primary particle and all those secondary particles with dirt, you need about 6 foot. 2 foot of concrete would do. So if you had a place like this, and if it weren't say underwater like this has got to be drained out better. Actually, I'm going to take this and bring the bottom level back up. What I'm going to do is I am going to bring the floor back up in here. I had a guy dig out a drainage and he didn't dig it deep enough, and so this thing gets a little water in it. One time I could swim in this. This was bigger than an Olympic swimming pool. It was chest high in water, and I could swim back and forth through here. It made a nice swimming pool. It would make a good agriculture pond, but this is intended for radiation shielding as much as anything. And I had a different underground home design when I started this. It was based on a guy named Mike Ayler. I'm not going to go on all that right now. So I'm going to build this in the style of my future habitat concept. So those poles are probably going to go. This started out different than what it will wind up. Water is also a good radiation shielding. If you had water overhead, the water would let through the sunlight, but it would stop a lot of the other stuff. So there are ways that you can live and shield yourself from these radiation events. You can go in a cave, you can go in a bunker, but with water and the right other things over your head, you could actually still get sunlight and grow some things for the time being. And your sea life survives underwater and did even before we had an ozone layer, because the water stopped UV. And water is very effective at stopping radiation, as it turns out. So water is a good moderator. And dirt, but it takes a lot of dirt to do the job, because the secondary particles that could come out of from your primary particles of the cosmic rays. That just so happens that you might could still grow plants under less than that and then have a little bit of a shield over your head where you're at. So there's various ways to work that, to play with that. I'm going to develop a habitat concept to take care of those kind of ideas, a place that you can live in, make a living out of, and grow all your food out of, and it would be kind of like an Earthship on steroids. I have presented it some in a presentation with Rex Bear way back when, and among other things, he and I always cover everything under the sun when we talk. All that said, okay, so let's get back to it. Greg, how do you know this stuff's happening? Well, it's like this. Right now, Earth's magnetic North Pole has moved rapidly since 1904. But prior to that, it was just kind of wandering around, and now it's taken off, and it's just crossed the prime meridian. Also, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the British Geophysical Survey have just released the World Magnetic Model 2020.0. They released it now. They actually had released one a year earlier, which was a year ahead of time in the update cycle. They had been doing them every 5 years, but now they got to do it faster than that, simply because things are changing very fast. The magnetic North Pole is moving. It's moving faster and faster, heading towards Siberia right now. So is the magnetic, the pole in our magnetic northern hemisphere, I should say. The pole in our magnetic southern in Earth's geophysical southern hemisphere near Antarctica is also rapidly moving, and it's going straight line, and it's headed toward probably Indonesia right now, and our North Pole may eventually head in that direction, which I say our North Pole, our magnetic pole in the northern hemisphere, which I think is our southern pole. They're moving rapidly. Magnetic field strength of Earth has been dropping since 1840. The 1840 drop started then and has accelerated. It's losing field strength faster and faster. It's now like maybe 15% a year, 10 to 15% a year in loss in field strength. It's picking up speed. It's not linear. This is exponential drop. it's dropping off like this. It's not coming down and steadily, it's dropping off faster and faster. And that's an indicator that something may be happening. It seems to be an indicator that we are verge of a magnetic excursion geographically in terms of time scale. It's time for it. They happen to, like I said, about every 12,500 years, and the last one happened 12,500 years ago. These do appear to be far more periodic than a full polar reversal. Every now and then a full polar reversal may result from one of these. We're overdue. That might happen. The chances for that are not nearly as big, even though it's overdue. Well, it's been overdue the last several magnetic excursions also and did not happen. So I would not say that we're going to face that. So what I've mentioned here is one way that you might survive is by going underground, putting water overhead, giving yourself shielding, storing seed. Store seed, buy seed and store them in a place that's under 6 foot of dirt, or 2 foot of concrete, or 7 inches of lead, or several gallons of water. So that may be a way that you can do that. You can take care of yourself in many ways. So what are the other signs of this magnetic excursion? Like I said, the poles seem to be going in convergence toward either somewhere around Indonesia, the Bay of Bengal. There are areas that this World Magnetic Model map shows where magnetic field changes are most rapid, and that appears to be right now just north of the Himalayas in the area of Mongolia, and also in the southwest Indian Ocean off the eastern shore of Africa. There it seems to be getting a lot stronger in field change. So these are things to pay attention to. We are seeing these changes. The fact that they had to update the model so rapidly was because we were actually having problems with navigation using the models we had, because things are just changing too fast. Another thing is we could have severe effects to our power grid. Without the shields to protect Earth, a small solar flare could take down our power grid. I have done many videos talking about loss of our power grid, and I've talked about solar flares that could do it. In 1859, there was an event called the Keratin event, which would absolutely burn out the whole grid. If that happened today or any time, but the Earth's magnetic field is much weaker than it was then. It is said that the 1921 railroad event would take out our modern grid. It may be that now the 1989 Quebec event could take down a grid, or do so in a very near amount of time. These smaller events are even more frequent. The NASA has estimated this 14% chance per decade of having a Keratin scale event. That's very significant. If the power grid goes down, the Congressional Task Force on EMP, electromagnetic pulse, said figure that you would lose 9 out of 10 people in a year. 90% of people would die out. They were counting on the idea that the farmers were growing their own food and were sustainable, and they're not. And I've covered that in several videos. While the seeds are coming from Monsanto, centralized points of supply, they're hybrid seeds, and most farmers, they don't even grow their own food. I've covered these topics in several videos, and I do that because I want you to be aware of what you need to be aware of, so you can be aware to prepare and stay alive. And that's why I'm showing you these things. I hope these things don't come to pass in our lifetime. It's still possible if they won't. I still hope for a bright future. I do have another channel, Galactic Greg's, which is all hope in that area. And if these things do come to pass, I hope enough of us can form communities that we can reemerge with strength. So that's why I talk about forming tribes. I'm looking at everything I can to make sure that we have the right kind of insurance in our actions, that we can survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive in the best or worst of conditions. And even in the best of conditions, it's smart to grow your own food. You're going to be healthier. It's smart to know how to eat out of the trees and the weeds in case you have to. And besides, that can be healthy food too. And it can be just an interesting thing to do. There's more nutrient density in some of that stuff, although it's going to be a challenge to get the calories and intake that you need. So you need to pay a little close attention to the broad spectrum of topics that I put out here. A lot of people don't like it when I cover one area or the other area, but they all fit together, including the gardening. I mean, in the Aquaponics greenhouse. For example, right behind me is an Aquaponics solar system. This is a total electric power-less system. This system actually pumps water, hot water, using the sun. I mean, it pumps it. No pump, no electricity, no power other than solar heat. I cover that in another video, so I'm not going to talk that here. Check out my videos. I cover many, many topics, and you will see how that you can do these things. If the grid goes down, I still got power straight from the sun to pump my water, at least that water. And I'm gonna have to put in some photovoltaics and some other things to get my system more complete the way I want it. And I will cover that when I do that. So you'll get to see a lot of topics on this channel as time unfolds. And here's another thing that you might want to see. You might have seen the video of me planting garlic. Here we are on the 26th of December, and it's growing great in my raised bed here. This is a food and a medicinal that I can grow in the wintertime. I can grow all year, is that clear? Right here. I've got onions and garlic. There is turmeric also here, and I can let it overwinter. I don't have to dig it up right off. But I've got several beds of turmeric. And these are important things. So back to this grid down. Our power grid could easily fail. Hang on. There are a lot of turmeric root all through here, yet to be dug up. I'll be digging it up soon. Some as I ordered. If I think we're gonna get super cold snap, I'll just go ahead and dig it all up probably. And what's growing here? That's edible. That is chickweed, my friend. The weeds are edible. The trees are edible. And I cover how you can do that in my videos. I cover how the most important thing to know, the most important thing to know for survival is how to purify and sanitize water. That's two different things, my friends. Have a video on that. But I also advocate hardening our power grid, and I do so aggressively because I think we can stop this if we can get the powers that be woken up. And I'm having some activity with that already. Some, Greg, they can't do this, can't do that. Don't tell me nothing I can't do, because I found that when I apply myself, I can do things very often that people say can't be done. I've done it many times. So it's just a matter of trying, working with other people, forming groups and coalitions and pushing for the things you believe. There is power in numbers. In spite of the fact that they may not want to go along with us, you can still force things to happen. You can. So the grid is at risk. Our health is at risk. Radiation can destroy crops. It can cause food loss, especially in large-scale monoculture agriculture. Food prices will skyrocket. Food will be unavailable, and the high price if you can get it. If you can get it. That's why you need to grow your own, store your own. Go to My Patriot Supply. You can get 25 years storage supply of food. 25. You can get it to last 25 years. 1 year's supply for one person. Average cost is like $2 a meal. Can't beat that. They're good prices, and this food can last a long, long time. It definitely gets you through. That and seeds. Seeds, you need seeds. You need heirloom seeds. That can get you through. You need to be able to grow your own stuff. You won't have a store to go to. That's why you need to look at having worms to produce your own worm castings. You need to learn things. Learn the skills to garden. Some people think all you gotta do is throw some seed in the ground and you got it covered. Much more to it than that. But I'll teach you how to prepare the beds, how to do everything when I show you how to plant here. I know it makes for long videos, and some people don't like that, but I'm teaching you what you need to know. Some people don't like it when I show them how to do this, because I guess they thought it was all just aquaponics. No, that's how to heat hot water, how to heat water without any electrical power. That is always good to know, how to heat it and how to move it. I cover that. I'm talking here about how to shield yourself. I'll do more of that in the future too. We'll go in more and more detail as we go along. And hopefully we got plenty of time for all this hits us. I don't know when exactly it's going to hit us, but I'm thinking we probably have at least 6 or 7 good years before it gets really bad, but some people are not that optimistic. I hope we can get through this. But the key things are that the Earth's magnetic field has been dropping since 1840. The magnetic North Pole, the magnetic pole in our northern hemisphere has been moving since 1904. The rate of change has picked up very steadily recently. It's moving faster and faster. The field strength of our magnetic field is dropping faster and faster. And there's another sign of this magnetic excursion and potential pole flip even, and that's called the South Atlantic Anomaly. It is a magnetic south pole in the southern hemisphere as opposed to the magnetic north pole, and it's growing in intensity. So it's like a whole nother pole on Earth, like we've got 3 poles right now in essence. It's the weaker one, but it is one that causes a lot of problems. Satellites and other things. So it causes that. Lets radiation in. Yes, the poles are our shields, and where you have, the magnetic field is our shield, and where you have poles, the field strength is less, and that can mean a death zone where crops have to grow, which they don't grow in Antarctica. They don't grow in the North Pole, not crops. Some things do, but I'm assuming there are a lot of plants that are also more radiation resilient, like Kiona and things that grow up in the Andes Mountains. Those might be good things to learn to grow. The foods that they grow up in the high mountain areas, which are more radiation resilient, such as Kiona, which also is a good source from which to make bread that's high in protein and doesn't have all the carbs that you get out of regular bread. So there's another thing you have to consider for seeds. Now I'm full of tips here for you. I'm full of advice, things that you need to know to help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. I cover so much in these videos, so please do subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please bang the update notification bell, and just please be aware that we live in perilous times, and for that reason you have to keep your eyes wide open and head on a swivel. There's so many challenges to us right now. There's challenges in international affairs. There's challenges that could cause someone to bring our grid down even before the sun would get around to it. And if they don't, the sun's going to do it, especially with their magnetic field dropping the way it is. We're not secure. We're not safe. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Maybe we can get ourselves into a safer position. Maybe we can get our grid hardened. If it isn't hardened and if the grid goes down, some of us got to form groups to keep water on these spent fuel rod pools at the nuclear reactors. I'm assuming the nuclear reactors will be injected with boron, and the reactors themselves won't be such a problem. I hope. But I do worry more about the spent fuel rod pools, because they're analyzed 280 times, actually almost 300 times because it's been accumulated, more radioactive material than is in all the warheads on Earth. So please, okay, I have drawn on quite a bit here, but I just want you to understand these things. Magnetic pole reversal can be serious. Oh, a magnetic pole reversal, without doubt. A magnetic excursion can be very serious. It may not be your typical extinction level event, according to some, but that doesn't mean that civilization could survive it. It doesn't mean the bulk population could survive it. And according to many charts and things that have been found recently, it does appear that many species do get extincted in such time periods. I mean, hey, we don't have any saber-toothed tiger. Where's the Clovis people? Where are the woolly rhinoceroses and the mastodons and mammoths and the Dreyer's wolf and, you know, the short-nosed cave bear, the giant ground sloth, camels in North America, horses in North America, where horses supposedly can't, well, now they're back, but not the wild horses. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on and on and on about the list of species that were either ceased to exist or no longer exist due to events that took place at that time. I bet, Greg, that was the end of the Ice Age. Well, these species survived interglacials before, and we are in an interglacial of a larger ice age. If you weren't aware of that, I may have to go into more detail on that in the future to explain that. But the world is still essentially in an ice age, and this interglacial may come to an end, and this grand solar minimum we seem to be slipping into may be the beginnings of the end of that period. And that's another factor. Grand solar minimums mean more cosmic rays coming into the atmosphere of the Earth. They cause cloud nucleation. Cloud nucleation causes more rainfall. More rainfall floods things. It causes you to be planting later in the spring because you have springtime flooding. You get early frost, early snows in the fall, and that inhibits crop harvesting. And that's happening big time this year, which I predicted earlier this spring in my channel when I talked about coming food shortages. Now the food shortages are here. They're beginning. All the more reason to prep, to grow your own, to buy seeds, and to learn these skills to store food. Yes, these are serious things that you need to consider. How do you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive? I'm doing everything I can to tell you as much as I can for you to do just that. Anyway, I have drawn on quite a bit here. All I'm going to say now is thank you for watching.